Welcome to Broadcast to Badass by Best Life Ever with your hosts, Kimi and Pua. If you're ready to stop struggling, stop hustling, and start living your best life ever, you are in the right place. And before we jump into our interview today with Michael Woodward, be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening to this. Just take a little moment, click subscribe so you never miss an episode.
Today, we are super excited to welcome Michael Woodward to the podcast. Michael is the founder and CEO of jumbleThink. His passion is to help individuals and businesses make their dreams attainable through creative thinking, idea formation and strategy, and all that good stuff, which led him to create the jumbleThink podcast. His podcast inspires big dreamers to gain the courage to chase the life they were created to live. In this podcast, Michael shares stories of those changing the world by engaging with their dream, and we are so excited to pick his brain today. So without further ado, let's welcome Michael Woodward to the show.
Well, welcome, Michael, to the podcast. So great to have you here.
It's so great to be back chatting with you guys again. So fun to have you on our podcast. I'm excited about today, though.
Yes, yay! Well, we were just talking, and you mentioned that you have done over 100 something interviews already, 120 something on your jumbleThink podcast. So amazing! Congratulations on that.
Thanks.
You've had it's an incredible show. We love it. It's so inspiring, and we would love to kick things off by having you share a little bit about how jumbleThink came to be.
Yeah. Well, it's been an interesting journey for me. I did not start out in the business world per se. I started out in working in churches and then moved into business. I owned a web development and design shop out of the fact that the church couldn't pay me. So I got into business and fell in love with helping people take an idea to a dream or their idea and dream to a reality. And so as I moved back to the East Coast, I had lived on the West Coast for 13 years, and moving back to the East Coast, and it looked like an amazing time to just reassess what I'm doing, how I'm doing it. And I said, what would be fun to do would be to explore the ideas and dreams of others who are doing crazy things. And so I decided to start this podcast called jumbleThink, and it's all about the philosophies of taking messy thoughts and taking the jumble and clarifying it, making it a thought and making it a reality, and interviewing people like you guys and others who are doing that very thing and changing the world around them. So we started just as an exploration of ideas and dreams and talking to innovators and creators and people who are really pushing against the status quo and exploring the possibilities. And so for me, when we launched the podcast, it was just about getting to know incredible people doing that very thing.
Wow, awesome. What I love so much about what you just said and about what your mission is that it kind of brings back the expansive possibilities of life for anybody, but especially for someone who has entrepreneurial visions and maybe sort of going down that path, but getting kind of stuck in whatever we get stuck in, whether that's, financial struggles or battling against the traditional norms that we've grew up in or anything like that. What is so beautiful about what you've created is the constant reminder that you can always expand your limits or let go of your limits altogether, right?
Yeah. Thank you so much for saying those kind words. But, you are exactly right. There is nothing worse. And I'm not going to get the quote right. I wish I could. But off the top of my head, I can't remember it exactly. But it's something to the effect of nothing's worse than a life unlived. And I think so much of society right now is about living the status quo. You're supposed to go do college, then you're supposed to go get the career, then you're supposed to maybe do several years there, jump from business to business, grow your career, make a lot of money, and then when you hit 50 or 60 or 70 or by the time we retire 105 or whatever that is, and then retire and then live our lives. But that seems like a life wasted to me. It seems like a life unlived. And I think that that's what it's all about is, I believe people are created for purpose. People are created for destiny. And there is nothing better than seeing someone who's stepping into that and saying, you know what? I'm not going to go the traditional route. I'm going to go push the boundaries into the unknown, experience the unknown. And whether it fails or succeeds, I'm on a journey of discovery. And win or lose, it's an amazing journey,
Love
Totally.
that. Love it. What a cool time we live in, right? Where we can be exposed to all of these little, like exposed to thoughts that can create a quantum shift in the way that we look at our lives. And with, podcasts and the internet and all this information available to us, it's just such an amazing time to be exposed to new ways of looking at things in a way that we have never been before. So powerful. And love it. Thank you so much for the wonderful work that you're doing to continue to get different ways of thinking out there. And you brought up the word, the unknown. And I know this is something that you've been talking and sharing a lot about on your podcast recently.
Right.
And you have a free download on your website about overcoming the unknown. Let's dig into that a little bit and share with us what does it mean to overcome the unknown, to be aware of it, and why do we have so much fear when it comes to the unknown? Can you share with us your thoughts on that?
Yeah, for me right now in this season, I'm living in a place of the unknown. We own a web development company. We're in its transition to a new business with around the podcast and other things we're doing. And so we're living in a place of the unknown. So that sparked my interest in going, so what is it about the unknown that scares us, overwhelms us, and holds us back from the potential? Or, for a lot of people, they may get locked into a situation in which they don't have to go into the unknown because they can live in the place of safe, which I think is a very dangerous place to live because it limits your possibilities. So when I started diving into this whole idea of like, what does it mean to overcome the unknown? We lost one of our largest clients. So for me, it got real right in that season when we started this discovery of facing the unknown. And what I started to experience as I researched people who did amazing things, these innovators, these influencers, as whether it's Steve Jobs or Elon Musk or Walt Disney, or you look at people like Dr. Luther King Jr. or even Mary Kay. These people stepped into something knowing that there was amazing potential, amazing opportunities, but they took the risk. They chose to step into something else. And so often there's a couple things that cause us to force living in the unknown. One, a situation that requires it, whether it's losing a job, a spouse, a situation where maybe we get injured and the unknown happens to us. And now we have to face a new reality. Another thing that happens is that we can choose to step into the unknown, where we can say, okay, I know that this is where I live. This is what I've got going on, but I can choose to engage something that's a little riskier and a little bit more overwhelming. And so those are really the two spaces, chosen unknown or unchosen unknown. And sometimes I think the unchosen unknown is actually easier because you're throttled into it. Whereas the chosen unknown is actually harder. You have to actively say, is this worth the investment of risk? Is this worth the investment of time? Is this worth the investment of failure? So two different situations, and I think they get to the same result, which is a new reality, but it's stepping from the light into darkness. And there's this poem that I think is just brilliant. And I forget who it's by off the top of my head, but he basically says, when you step out of the light and into the unknown, you will either step onto something with sure footing, solid land, or you'll learn to fly. And I love that philosophy of you're either going to have a foundation or you're going to learn to blossom, to spread your wings and soar to a level that you didn't know was possible. So that's kind of been the beginning journey of this discovery of the unknown and what it looks like.
Holy smokes. I have so much I want to say. What is so interesting about this, I think Unchosen Unknown is a part of life that we've all kind of accepted, whether or not we go through it gracefully is kind of case by case. But that chosen unknown, it's almost like gambling, right?
Yeah.
And in a sense, when you look at entrepreneurs who have, successfully created businesses and you dig a little bit deeper into their history, quite often, I think we all know, you'll find that many business owners have owned multiple businesses. This isn't the first. And, there is high risk and high loss in the past. And, many business owners go through bankruptcy. And it really seems to be like the path where you get to train your own levels of kind of grit and resilience. And the more you can do that, it is like gambling, right? Is it a little bit addictive after a while?
Yeah, I think so. For me, there's been seasons of stepping into unknowns. When the church I was working at couldn't afford to pay me, I had to step into an unknown of what do I do next. When we had some situations where a client didn't pay us like $65,000 a couple years back, we had to step into an unknown. In this new season of transitioning the old business model into a new thing, we're stepping into the unknown. And what's amazing with that, you mentioned the addictive nature of stepping into the unknown, is I think it is addicting, and I think there's a risk. There's an adrenaline release. There's so much more going on there. But there's also, when you have these different steps throughout your life, whether it's a career change, whether it's a life change, location change, all of these changes, when you experienced it once, it sets a foundation to say, okay, I made it through here today. And then you get to the next season, you look back and you say, well, back then when I encountered the unknown in this type of situation, everything was okay. So it builds that sense of certainty in an uncertain situation, because you can go back in the experiences of your past, presupposition, how you view the world based on past experiences. And you can apply that to your current situation to bring peace and freedom and a sense of, okay, I can have faith here because I've experienced this before and it was painful and there was a process to go through. But now on the flip side of it, I can look back to that as encouragement to say, this is my baseline for this new season of the unknown. And it releases a new freedom to risk more maybe, but also to have more faith to go, well, I've been here before, it's okay, and I'm going to get through it again.
Brilliant.
Love that so much. What a great reminder to really celebrate and stop and reflect and celebrate what we have overcome, because we can take faith and courage from that to help fuel us as we continue to expand to new levels. Love that. I remember that this once when really at the beginning of our journey as entrepreneurs, at least for this business working together, Pua and I, we had been talking. I was talking to this entrepreneur, very seasoned entrepreneur, very successful, and we got into a conversation, and I was like, "Oh, it's so hard. We don't know what we're doing. We're trying to figure it out. It's so difficult. It's so challenging." And I'll never forget, Pua and I couldn't believe his response. And that was, wow, I wish I was back there. That's so fun. That's such a fun time. Like figuring all that stuff out, trying to figure out how you're going to make your business work. Like all of that unknown is so fun and exciting, and you're going to miss it someday. And I remember Pua and I being like, we are not going to miss this at all.
Yeah.
But I kind of get what he was saying, and that as you build up your resilience, you begin to learn to reframe the unknown and see it not as scary, but as exciting and fun, because, if you're able to overcome it, then the next season of unknown, as you called it, is you can begin to say like, wow, okay, what do I have in store? This is kind of fun. And, so it's just about looking at it in a different way, right? Is it something to be feared, or is it something that can be looked at as exciting?
I think it can be both. And it's okay in situations. I think it's common for us to feel like we either can be afraid or excited, or we can be, scared to death, or we can have all the faith in the world. And I think that there are going to be moments where you have like all of the courage in the world to face the unknown. And then there are going to be moments it could be 5 minutes later where you have all the doubt of the new season, the thing you're moving into. There's all of that going on too. So it's easy to say, I feel this way or that way, and feel like there's even failure in the emotion or emotional management of yourself through these situations. And I think that more people need to be engaged in the emotions that they're feeling through these transitions, the stepping into the unknown, because the more you're engaged in your emotions, the more I think you're really experiencing the situation. And the other thing that goes with that is the fact that when you are engaged with your emotions, there's this intuitive nature that comes with it, because it's a little bit more primal. It's a little bit more back to like the rawness of life, where all of a sudden, you get these gut instincts like, okay, I don't know how I know or why I know, but I just know that this is the next right step. And so I think being in tune with those emotions and balancing that of just being aware of it brings a lot of freedom in that journey to make those steps. But I agree with what that coach or mentor or the person you were talking about that's been down this road. It does become easier, but it also becomes different. In our research for the episodes on the unknown, we really stumbled on this whole philosophy of there are known knowns, there are known unknowns, and there are unknown unknowns. So even in this transition of like, okay, I've been a successful entrepreneur, we've built, a very successful business. Now we're in this new season. Well, now I have new known knowns. I have new known unknowns, but I also have different unknown unknowns. And so by weighing those different things in each season, in each transition, in each journey into the unknown, those all shift and change. So there's still a massive learning process. There's still a massive evolution of your knowledge and experience that is applied to the situation. And so I think that each step into the unknown can be as exciting as the first one, but just vastly different.
Love it.
That's unreal. And what I really what is so fascinating to me about this conversation is it kind of strikes down I'm not going to say that it counteracts the idea of manifestation, but what I love what you said about feeling all of the emotions in this was that it's not just about thinking positively and, maybe it'll all just kind of go away or and there were parts of our journey where I was so focused on the pain and this fear of the unknown, but I didn't want to let myself feel that fully because I thought that it was going to bring more bad things. Does that make sense? It sounds so crazy when I say it out loud, but it's something that I was thinking. I'm like, don't focus on your lack. Don't focus. And there's value to that, I do believe. But it is also really important to be where you are and say, I feel scared. I feel challenged. What am I going to do about it? You pretty much have two options. You get creative, you persevere, right? Or you quit and you go do something else. Either way, you'll be okay, but it's up to you how you want your future to look, right?
Right. Yeah, I think that's very, very true. And I when you acknowledge the fear or acknowledge the emotion that's there, now you can set up strategies to navigate it. You think of people that just freeze in bad situations and they just don't know what to do. They don't know how to respond and act. We can learn from that. So the next time you face that, you have a coping mechanism, if you will, to then navigate so you don't freeze. Like if a bear is attacking you and you don't know what to do, you're just going to instinctually make in action, whether that's running or whether that's climbing a tree, whether that's laying down and curling up in a ball, you're going to react. But when you have the knowledge that you can apply to the fear now, and now the situation is the bear is attacking you, you can use that wisdom and experience to apply and say, okay, this is the best way to respond to this emotion of, oh, I am screwed, a bear is attacking me. Well, what do you do? When you know how to navigate that, you can then apply that to the emotions you're feeling and get through the situation.
So good. Oh, I love this conversation so much. You are in such a unique situation in a sense that you've had 120 plus conversations with people that think in different ways. They've got creative ideas. We would love to hear how have all of these conversations impacted your life and your journey and the choices that you're making in your life now? Is there anything that sticks out, or what have you gained from all of these conversations and exposure to all of these entrepreneurs and different ways of thinking?
I think one of the biggest lessons that I've learned is that, when I started this podcast, one of the things I really wanted to focus on was bringing on voices that were different than mine, had different perspectives, different interpretations, different worldviews that maybe I even opposed. And to bring them on, when you hear observations, when you hear opinions, when you hear experiences that are different than your own, it expands the knowledge and the base of understanding in which you operate. And the more wide your experience is, the more wisdom you can apply to your situation. One of the greatest lessons I think that I've learned is that, one, none of the people that I've talked to are absolutely all that special. And what I mean by that is that it's easy from a distance to put someone that we look up to on a pedestal and say, well, they've got it all together. They've got the money, they've got the position, they've got the title, they've got the influence, and think that there's something special. But when you strip back their story, when you listen to what they're saying, the only thing that makes them truly special is that they truly engaged in the journey. They chose to do what others wouldn't. When others maybe ran or gave up, they chose to push in further, or they approached those fears and overcame those fears. And that's what makes them special. It's not that they're inherently just a superstar or a superhero, as we often look up to them as being, but often these people are average people that chose to live extraordinary lives. And I think that that's one of the greatest lessons we can learn is it's easy to say, well, they had this going for them. This is their situation. They were tied into the right circles, or they knew the right people, and give all excuses for ourselves on why we can give up or not choose to make that journey because we look at these other people and look up to them. Or we can choose to learn from their stories and say, because of the choices they made, I can be freed to make the choices I need to make. And I think it's one of the greatest experiences you can learn when you talk to amazing entrepreneurs and dreamers, innovators, is that they're simply being intentional about the choices they're making. And that's the power in which they make the future that they want to see. And so I think that would be one of the big things. The other thing would be that all of them, while their success rests solely on them from the point that they're making decisions, there was a community around them that supported them, whether it was a family member, whether it was family, circles on a larger scale, or whether it was a writing community, whether it was a startup community, whether it was friends from college. There is a support network that helps to build these amazing people, and that these amazing people are who they are because they've put themselves around incredible people to help support that journey.
Wow. That was an amazing answer. Love both of those. Wow.
I just thought I was rambling on. So sorry.
Really great.
So epic. Intention and support really is like, that's it. Yeah. And what's so beautiful about all of this, like you are just humanizing every one of these topics and experiences. And we've actually found also through our podcast, like you're so right. When we first started podcasting, we had this list and we called it Unicorn Podcast Guests. And they were all these famous people who we thought it would be like such a great success marker to have them on the podcast. And,
Right.
While they would still be welcome, but, Ellen, The Rock, people like that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we've also spoken to people who may have never been exposed to our audience had we not had a conversation with them just in passing, like in life.
Yeah.
And to give their story a voice and to let them inspire other people by just being quote unquote normal, regular people, just doing cool things in the world, asking for nothing in return, but to continue to do what they love. Like it's really inspiring. And for anyone out there who feels like there is any reason you can't do whatever you want to do, or you don't have the support, or you aren't really sure what to do or where to go, like, we're here, all three of us. We are here to tell you that you can, and we can be your support if you feel like you don't have that in your life. So thank you. Yeah, that was really amazing. And I am also very curious to hear so you have a couple of free guides on your website, and one is about overcoming the unknown. And the other one you said was 4 ways to know that you've found your dream.
Right.
And I'm so curious if you could kind of dig into that just a little bit without giving it all away. What is that all about?
Yeah. When you have a dream or an idea, there's different seasons of that dream and idea. At the very beginning, it's often a question of like, have I really found it? Or am I just being kind of weird here? Like, is this the coolest thing ever? Or am I just infatuated with something that's really stupid? And I think all of us who are dreamers experience that, where we're like, eye in the sky, just kind of looking to the far reaches of the earth. And so we see that thing and now it's become the next target, and we try to jump into that. And while we jump into that, we really get off course from our core vision, our core values, and who we are on that journey sometimes. And so how do you know when something is really the dream that you have, right? And how do you know when something is just a passing infatuation, something that's caught your attention, and it's, the shiny jewelry that you're like, oh, I must have that. So the 4 steps to be knowing when you found your dream is all about that. It's about going, does this have staying power? Is this something that I'm into it for the long haul? Or is this something that just I'm interested right now, and in 2 weeks I'm going to be so over it? Is this something which I'm talented at, that I have giftings and abilities to do? Is this something that I'm passionate about? You can have giftings without passion. You can have passion without giftings. In giftings, your abilities can be learned, but they're also sometimes born into you. So that's into it. And then, do you have the resources to see that dream come to pass? Now, any one of those things could be no, and you still have an amazing dream and it's still worthwhile chasing. So these are just kind of filters to help you understand, is this really something that I value enough to make the steps into making it a reality? There are a lot of things, a lot of great ideas I've had through the years. One of them was I wanted to do a website, because we built websites, called Spotted Celeb. And it was all about celebrities encounters and telling your story of your celebrity encounter. And as I went with our team and, dove into that whole idea of like, oh, you could do this website. People can, from their mobile app, then tell their story. And then you can kind of geo-market and, rate the person, this celebrity was a jerk, they're awesome, whatever. And it was all about telling the story. But the more I dove into the idea with our team, we're like, well, this doesn't really align with our value system, because we really want to honor the people that we are engaging with. And in this case, if somebody's doing something that's unsafe, that's going to put the jeopardy of that person, that individual's life in place, that's no good. If they're stalker-esque, where they're just becoming a burden on the person, that's not good. And, we want to see the best in people. And so a lot of times our celebrity encounters are all about the worst in people. And so we decided not to do that idea because as we went through that dream, that idea that we were having, we just felt like it didn't align with who we were. We had the giftings, we had the idea, we had the resources to make it happen, but in the end, we chose that it didn't match up to our value system. And so the guide helps people navigate those issues and give them some fundamentals of like, here's how you can measure it and make sure that's something that you really want to invest into.
Awesome. It's kind of like your gut check part 2, just in case you don't trust your gut.
Right. Well, it's good to have like outside methods and systems. I hate systems. I am horrible at systems, but I have systems in place because they reinforce success. From learning from failures and from seeing what does and doesn't work with our business, we've put systems in place. And those systems help support the success of what we're doing. And just like that, this guide is there to help people choose to make successful choices. Now, there's always risk in chasing a dream or idea, but you can also make choices early on that either set you up for a better chance of success or discourage you away from something that you shouldn't be investing into.
Very cool. Wow. So where can people find that?
Yeah, if you head on over to jumbleThink.com, there's a resources page. There's all kinds of different resources there. There's one that's called Free Guides. Check that out. They're both there.
All right. And we'll be sure to include that in the show notes as well. Well, Mike, we could talk with you all day. You are so fun and easy to talk to. And we just have loved this conversation so much. Any final words to share with our audience?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that dreamers have that is scary is dreaming comes from a place of identity, knowing who you are. And the world right now is crazy. There's a lot of weird stuff going on, a lot of cool things going on. But the world needs each of us to live in that place of understanding who we are and then jumping into that place where we step into our purpose, our destiny, what we were created to do. So if there's anything I could say right now to anyone listening is that you are so significant, and whether it's influencing one person or a million people or a billion people, your journey is significant, and we need you to really be who you were created to be. That's what the world needs right now. And so I just want to encourage that.
Amen.
My eyes watered up on that one. Wow. Thank you for that. Thank you. And yes, everybody listening, definitely check out JumbleThink podcast. Go get those free downloads, and we'll include those links in the show notes. And thank you so much for this wonderful conversation. This has just been an absolute joy.
Oh, it's always great to talk to the both of you. And it's amazing when you meet people like you that you just go, these guys get it. They understand what it means to be world changers. And so it's been a privilege to get to know you the last couple of weeks. So thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
Likewise. Thanks so much.
We hope you enjoyed this interview with Mike Woodward as much as we did. Be sure to check out jumbleThink.com, where you can get his 2 free guides, 4 ways to know you found your dream, and all about overcoming the unknown. And be sure to subscribe to his podcast too. You guys will love it. That's jumbleThink.com. And if you've got a big dream that you're ready to turn into reality, we would love to hop on the phone with you. Book a free breakthrough call with us at BestLifeEver.buzz/apply, APPLY. We can't wait to talk with you.